Okay, hello all. So, today we are going to start the new program of ours, and that's called as HMAP, right? So, I hope those who are having history as an optional paper, you all must be understanding that what is the significance of this map portion. Like the significance of map could be understood only with respect to this, that if out of 50, or it is possible for you that out of 50 you can very easily score somewhere around 40, and if you have been putting more efforts, in that case definitely you can score more than 40 also, right? So 40 to 45 is considered to be an ideal score in this map section. So you just can imagine that if out of 200, like rest of the questions are of 200, if you are able to score, let's say, just 50%, so 100 marks, and in map itself, like if you are capable of scoring 40, let's be very modest, and let's say like if you are scoring only 40, in that case also your total score in paper 1 becomes 140. So if you have been really scoring 140, and if let's say if you have performed slightly better in the subjective questions, in that case it's quite possible to get like out of 200 somewhere around 120. In that case you can really get somewhere around 160 or 165, and in fact it's not very surprising that people have earlier also scored around 160. So even it's also possible more than 160, like one of my students has scored 167 in paper 1. So if you really wish to score very good in paper 1, because mostly it is a perception that in paper 1 you are not able to score very good, this is a wrong perception. Like in paper 2 there are so many surveys they have scored very good, but in paper 1 I have noticed that people are not able to score very good, and in fact there are multiple reasons because of what people are not able to score very good in paper 1. But in paper 2, since the evaluation and the expectations are also somehow very less as compared to paper 1, and that's the reason because of what people are able to score very good in paper 2. But in paper 1, if you really want to excel your marks, in that case you have to focus a lot on the map. And at the same time I must tell you that if you have been ignoring this particular portion, in that case like you won't be able to score very good in paper 1. So paper 1 is something, or nature of paper 1 is as such that until and unless you focus a lot on the map section, it's very tough for you to score very good. So you all understand the significance of map, but at the same time, it's sounding very good that out of 50 you are able to score 40. So but then I must tell you that of course it is asking for certain efforts. If you think only by doing giving a kind of minor effort you are able to score somewhere around 40, that's also not possible. You have to prepare it well, and the moment I'm saying you have to prepare it well, then I mean several other things also. So what do I mean basically? That if you have been really wishing to or willing to score around 40, in that case you need to follow a very good method, a very scientific method through which you can really score good. So if you're not following that method, in that case it's definitely going to be very tough for you, right? Because when it comes to the map portion, in terms of ideas it is sounding very good कि ठीक है यार मेरा 40 स्कोर हो जाएगा या थोड़ा सा मेहनत कर लेंगे, ठीक है. बट आई थिंक इट इज नॉट अबाउट मेहनत ओनली कि ठीक है मैंने काफी वक्त दिया, ठीक है, और काफी वक्त देके मैंने स्कोर कर लिया. शायद थोड़ा मुश्किल इसलिए क्योंकि अगर आपका अप्रोच इसके लिए बहुत सही नहीं है, अगर आप थोड़ा सा टेक्निकल या फिर थोड़ा साइंटिफिक अप्रोच लेके नहीं चलते हैं, तो उस केस में आपके लिए थोड़ी मुश्किलें पैदा हो सकती है जहां पे आप अच्छा स्कोर करें. तो मुझे लगता है कि जब भी मैप का सेक्शन आता है तो आप सबको सिर्फ मेहनत पे या हार्डवर्क पे उतना फोकस नहीं करना चाहिए जितना फिर फोकस जो है इसको बहुत साइंटिफिक तरीके से जो है इस पोर्शन को खत्म करने में करना चाहिए. So, what is the specification of this particular program? So we are not doing it in this way that okay, these are the maps and these are the descriptions I have just told you. Like we have been designing it, or we have designed it in such a way that can really help you in your efforts, right? This is my duty, that if I'm really able to help you in pushing your marks up, right, in this particular segment, then only there is a utility of this course. So basically I have designed this course in such a way, like either it is material or it is about classes, like everything has been designed in such a way that it can facilitate, it can ease your work. That's the most important target, कि मैं आपके काम को जितना आसान बना सकूं और आपके जो पॉसिबिलिटीज है, जो चांसेस हैं जिससे आप मार्क्स स्कोर जो अपना स्कोर ऊपर कर सके, हम उसको टारगेट कर रहे हैं, राइट? सो दैट्स हाउ आई हैव डिजाइन इट. सो मोस्ट प्रोबेबली so far I have just given you the schedule of 11 classes or 10 classes, but maybe 2-3 classes may exceed, because the way we have been covering and the way we have been covering in multiple dimensions, like, above this map course. So because of what, like, we can exceed couple of classes, but the focus is that, like, in those classes, whatever the classes is there, whatever the classes are there, like, we'll try to do it in such a way that a rough idea of everything, either it is about identification of the site, or it is about, let's say, writing description of the site, there is a kind of, comfortable situation you are in. That's my target. So we have been doing the things in this way. So in this particular, like, class, this is the introductory class, and I'll try to discuss about some basics of this map. And as per that, like, if you have really understood that, if you have really comprehended that properly, in that case, we'll try to develop, like, we'll try to develop the further things. That's the main idea. Okay, fine. So whenever it comes to the map section, right, whenever it comes to map section, what are the things that we need to keep in mind, right? So in map, which is, in this particular segment, which is known as, map portion, what are the important things that you need to keep in mind? So the first thing, that as I told you, that there are 20 sites which are being asked, right? There are 20 sites which are being asked. So these are basic things. I believe that you all must be knowing about it, but still, like, let me discuss about some rough idea that how come this map is being is being given to you, or in what way you need to prepare it. So basically 20 sites are given. Okay. So the sites, exactly the name of the sites are not given. Basically you have been provided a map, and in this particular map, like, you have to identify certain pointings are there, or certain pointers have been given, and then the description of the site, or let's say any particular feature of the site, is also written in your paper. So what you need to do, so basically a map is there, and in fact here I would like to tell you one thing, that the UPSC is doing experiment with this particular segment. UPSC as in, sometimes they are giving you the political map, right? Sometimes they are giving you the political map. Sometimes they are giving you, right, the blank map. Sometimes they are giving you the political map, sometimes they are giving you the blank map. And that's how, like, the chaos is being created. So since UPSC is doing experiment with this, so I guess, like, in that case, you need to be very particular of, or else, like, what we can do, that we can prepare in both the ways, that, like, if any kind of, like, change is there in the UPSC's pattern, in that case, it is not becoming a surprise for you. Even I am the victim of that particular thing. Like, before 2012, like, the map used to be asked, like, map was being asked in a very different way. But after 2012, the pattern has been changed. From 2012, the pattern has been changed. So that's the reason you should be actually ready for some such sort of surprises. So that's the reason, because of whatever the possible means are there, or whatever the possible ways are there to prepare this map, it's better to be ready with that, right? So, like, as I told you, that certain experiments are being done in this particular area, and that's how you need to be very particular of, or you need to be very careful for this, right? So in this particular map, the points are being made, and the features are written. Like, let's say this is site 1, and in site 1, like, in the map there is a pointer given here, and, like, it's written, this is site number 1, and for site number 1 they have given the feature. Let's say the feature is given a factory sites, a factory site, or it may be anything. It is just an example. So it is given. Now, seeing the map, you have to do two things, the most important part of this map area. So this is the nature of the question. And now what becomes your duty? So first duty that you do have is identification of the site. You need to identify the site, that what site exactly it is. And this is the most tough challenge for you, that when you need to identify the site properly, it creates great amount of confusion and many other things, right? So identification of the site is one thing, and then it comes to the second thing, is about writing the description of the site. Description of site. In how many words? In 30 words. So you need to write the description in 30 words. This is what you are supposed to do in this map. So if you have identified the site properly, And then if you have written or you have given the right description, and since you can see that there are only 30 words in which you need to provide the description of the site, so you have to be very careful that in those 30 words you have been actually incorporating the right content of the topic of the site. Because if you are not able to write content, sometimes this idea is there in the mind of the students that okay, if I am writing any 30 words or any kind of 30 words, that's quite okay for me, or that's quite okay for the evaluator. Like that idea is never going to work, because if you are writing any description, let's say you are like filling those 30 words just by writing a whole sentence. So in the sentence of 10, sentence of 10 words, only one key feature is being covered. So in that case, your 10 word won't be counted, only one key feature would be counted. And that's the reason, because of what here in those 30 words, you need to make sure that these 30 words somehow explaining the best possible, let's say, specifications of that site, or the most important specification of these sites. So you need to make sure that in those 30 words you have been incorporating all those things, right? So this is the nature of the question. Got the point? In map you need to do this, right? So first is identification, and the second is about the description of the sites. After this, when it comes to this map question, so as I told you that identification of the site is the most challenging or the tough task. Why? Because it creates various confusion. When it is given on a political map, it becomes slightly easier, but when it is given on a blank map, in that case it is creating several kind of problems. So when, as I told you that identification of the site is a problematic thing, so we'll try to figure out first the identification of site. First of all, there are certain confusions for this identification of the sites. The biggest confusion that UPSC has been pointing the site in a very scientific way, and if there is a minor variation, in that case you are not going to score, like you won't be given the proper marks. Okay? This is the major confusion among the students. Let me tell you that when UPSC is pointing the sites, they are not very scientific. I'm telling you, because I have tried to observe the maps which they have provided in last couple of years, and I'm able to note down this. It is not 100% accurate or correct. Rather, some minor variation is there. So let me tell you that sometimes what happens. Let's say you have prepared the map, and as per you, let's say this is the topic of cancer which is going on, and the site that you have studied, as per you, it is somewhere exactly here, right? But then site is marked let's say slightly here. In that case, you are getting confused. It is not that site what you have studied, but that's a different site. But I'm telling you, it is not correct, right? Some minor variations are quite possible, and I'm telling you, if the distance is there, roughly speaking, between 100 to 150 kilometers, in that case, you just mark whatever the site you have studied, and I'm telling you that you can get the full marks. Okay? So they are not so particular, because earlier also, when the previous style was there, I knew that if earlier when you were supposed to mark the site, mark the point on the map, let's say, suppose this is the point where you have marked, but the actual site is falling here. Got my point? So in that case, what they used to do, they used to put the pencil over here, and if the pencil was covering, or it is actually in the periphery of that, your marking is coming, in that case they considered it correct. So that's the reason, because of what I can say, they are not so particular the way you believe. If this site you have studied, whether they have marked here, so this must be a different site. This is completely incorrect. If there is a gap of or distance of 100 and 150 kilometers, in that case, both if there's only one site, then this site that you have studied, that is 100% correct. Or if there are two sites in this close proximity, in that case, I'm telling you that if you have been writing about both the sites, that's correct, right? So don't get over tensed for this कि अरे मैंने गलत मार्क कर दिया, वो नहीं है, ऐसा नहीं है. अगर बहुत क्लोज है, मैंने कहा कि डिस्टेंस इससे ज्यादा नहीं है, तो उस केस में जो है दोनों वो सही माने जाते हैं, right? So in that case, what is going to happen when it comes to identification, always go for the popular sites. ठीक है? UPSC, if they are asking 20 sites, when it comes to identification, let's say if they are asking 20 sites, I must tell you that out of 20 sites, 16 to 17, or in fact I'll say 18 sites are as such which are taken from the previous year questions, or else I can say the popular sites which are there in Indian history, ancient Indian history, right? So those who are very popular, like instead of asking the very minor sites, definitely they are doing experiments with certain such sites which are either recently excavated or these are very new sites. So it's not true that they're not asking the new sites. But what is important, I told you that we cannot target the 150 out of 50. We must target 40 to 45. And for that, if 17, 18 sites are correct, we'll be able to score this much. And that's how still majority of the sites are being asked from this. So when it comes to preparing the sites, so the popular sites or the sites which are there in the PYQs that you need to prepare. And apart from this, like if there are certain sites which are recently in news, in that case, these sites must be prepared. Now, those sites which are in news, like I must tell you that here again, you can find that the site is a non-site. Now, because of this re-excavation, it is coming into the news, or else some new site is there. So these two possibilities is there. If it is non-site, if it is among the popular sites, in that case it is not a problem. But yes, if you have studied that in the news, in that case, this particular description, if you have been writing this in your description, okay, it was recently re-excavated, and there are some new evidences or the fresh evidences have come up, which are actually throwing some like fresher light over the like history of, let's say, IVC or Chalcolithic. In that case, of course, it is adding some weightage in your answer, so that can be done. And if it is a new site, in that case, you need to prepare it. So because these kind of sites may be asked in the exam. So when it comes to the sites, you need to prepare the sites in this way, right? So don't chase. Sometimes what has happened, I have noticed that since there are certain new sites are being asked, one or two, because of that, sometimes students had been unnecessarily putting their efforts into those sites also, which are, I must tell you, which are not, let's say, very popular. There is no possibility that this site is going to be asked once again, but still students are preparing those sites. Don't do that, because as I told you that from 16 to 18 sites are coming from the same PYQs or the popular sites, so you need to prepare it in that way. So while doing this, what we are going to do, we have just incorporated around 500 sites, and I'm telling you that if you have really prepared 500 sites, that whatever the target we do have, the 18 sites perfectly, like that can be done very easily. तो हमारा target है कि हम इतने sites prepare करें और ऐसे site prepare करें जो UPSC निश्चित तौर पे पूछेगी या जिसमें ज़्यादा possibility है या ज़्यादा probability है जिसके पूछे जाने की, हम उन sites पे ज़्यादा focus करेंगे. Of course, we'll try to cover some new topics also, like new sites also, because if there are certain sites which are in news in the recent time, we'll try to incorporate even those sites, right? So this is the first idea which should be very clear in your mind, right? Now, moving to the next thing, when it comes to identification of the sites, right? So that's how, this is one idea that I wanted to share. Now, moving to the next thing, like what is the best way of covering the sites? Okay? Now, this is the most important thing. Normally, as I told you, that it creates certain confusion. Best ways of covering, or let's say remembering the sites, right? Not covering only, but the remembering the sites. Now, this is something which is very important. Now, if you have been trying to do it in just one way, in that case, it is going to become challenging for you. Why it's challenging for you? Because the experiments are even being done while sites are being asked. What kind of experiments? The same site is being done. Like, let's talk about the confusion first. Okay? The confusion is being created in this way that sometimes very close sites are being asked. That's one confusion. What is the second confusion? That sometimes they have been using different feature. The site is quite well known to you, but when UPSC is asking for the same site, they have been asking for such a feature that you might not have heard, or else if you have heard also, you're at that point of time you are not able to recall it. That's the another problem. Okay? So basically, this is the problem which is being created. Now the point is that what is the solution of it? Right here, we are definitely not to create or not to problematize it. So basically, whenever you have been preparing the sites, okay, there are three different ways of preparing it. Three different ways of preparing it, right? What are these three different ways to prepare it? So the first is basically the period wise, right? So either it is phase wise, period wise, or chronologically. Okay? So we can say period wise, or let's say as per the chronology, or else what we can say as per the time frame. Okay? That's how you can prepare. Okay? So if you have done it in this way, in that case, like, this is the one way which is being followed by everyone. Okay? I think this is the most popular format of doing it. But at the same time, if you have been following it through some other channels, right, or through some other mediums, or if you have been trying to prepare it through some other, let's say, process, in that case, it becomes easier for you, right? Now, what are the other ways? What we are going to definitely incorporate? So basically, if we have been doing it cluster-wise, right? Let's say if this is one part of India, and in this particular part, there are certain, let's say, Paleolithic site, this is a Mesolithic site, this is a Neolithic site, this is a, let's say, Mesolithic, this is again a Paleolithic site, and so on. Or let's say there's another Neolithic, or another, let's say, that's how it is there. What happened if you follow this one? Let's say you have been the period wise. In that case, you try to prepare only the Paleolithic sites, right? So you prepare this site, you prepare this site, but you are not preparing like the rest of the sites. So when you have been preparing only the Paleolithic sites, so on the map only the Paleolithic sites do appear. So then in that case, like at that particular point of time when you have been trying to mug it up, when you are trying to cram it, at that time you feel okay, it's quite easy, like I'll remember it. But the moment it is provided you in the map in the examination, then you come up with this confusion कि अरे ये Paleolithic है या Neolithic है, ये तो Neolithic लग रहा है या ये Paleolithic लग रहा है, या उस टाइप के confusions जो create हो सकते हैं. So instead of seeing it only this way, like why not to prepare it even cluster, in a clusters way also, like you have seen this, you have prepared in this way, but at the same time you do have certain maps where the clusters are given. So what I'm trying to tell you, like what I have done basically, let's say I am also going to follow this, but at the same time what I'm going to do, that whenever they are located in a very close proximity, let's say certain Paleolithic sites are there, certain Mesolithic, certain Neolithic sites are there, in that case I can get you certain maps, right? The maps which are basically given in a cluster way also. So in that case you'll be able to recall कि अच्छा इस जगह पे थोड़े Paleolithic है, थोड़े Mesolithic है, थोड़े Neolithic है, Paleolithic वाला इस तरफ आता है लाइन के, Mesolithic वाला उस तरफ आता है, तो इस तरीके के confusions फिर आपको नहीं होंगे. इसीलिए मैंने क्या किया है कि we are going to try cover it as per the clusters also, right? And the third thing that's again very important, and that can also help you, it creates various confusion. यूपीएससी साल में एक बार पेपर बनाती है और इसीलिए उसके पास एक्सपेरिमेंट्स करने के बहुत सारे स्कोप्स हैं, ठीक है. ये हमेशा याद रखिएगा कि साल में अगर आपको भी एक ही पेपर बनाना है या एक ही पेपर देना है तो आपके पास बहुत स्कोप है. वो पूरी अपनी विजडम लगाते हैं ताकि जो है वो कंफ्यूजन क्रिएट कर सके. दूसरा क्या है, द सेकेंड थिंग, द थर्ड थिंग विच इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, दैट यू नीड टू बी वेरी पर्टिकुलर अबाउट द keywords. Sometimes that site is well known to you, but the moment it comes to the feature that has been written in the paper, that's a different feature, and then you are getting confused. अरे ये तो मैंने पढ़ा ही नहीं है, ये syllabus के बाहर आ गया, etc. ये सारी चीजें हैं. So basically, sometimes what happens, the same site is there, right? But they have given a different feature. Let me give you some example to make you understand, right? Let's say if any Neolithic site is there, so you have prepared it with respect to this Neolithic, like you know that there is a Neolithic site here, but instead of asking in the question Neolithic, they are asking a village settlement, right? Or else they are asking agriculturist site. So same thing can be presented, or even let's say they have given the burial site. So the same site can be asked you in multiple ways. That's the reason because of what keywords or the features is something that you need to prepare it pretty well, that you can, like, you cannot be surprised after seeing the question. Rather, you are having this clarity कि अरे ये तो नियोलिथिक साइट है, ये तो मुझे पता है, ठीक है. वो कंफ्यूजन वो बहुत जरूरी है. और इनफैक्ट ऐसे बहुत सारे ऐसे एग्जांपल्स हो सकते हैं. जैसे मान लीजिए उसने पूछा कि टेम्पल साइट है, ठीक है. टेम्पल साइट की जगह उसने दे दिया एजुकेशनल सेंटर है, ठीक है, ब्राह्मणिकल सेंटर है. सो सेम साइट कैन बी आस्क्ड इन मल्टीपल वेज. महाजनपदा साइट है, ठीक है, वो उस तरीके से पूछ लिया उन लोगों ने. या फिर उसने क्या किया, महाजनपदा साइट को उसने कहा कि जो है सिटी, ठीक है. So there might be many such ways. So that's why, like, whatever the knowledge that you have collected while reading the history, that can be also utilized here, because if you have been using that, in that case you will feel bit comfortable. So that's the next thing that you have to keep in mind. Got the point? Now these are couple of things that you have to keep in mind. Then we are moving further. So what we are going to do, like, let's try to understand the chronology. And along with this chronology, I'll be discussing about certain such features that can help you to understand, right? So phase wise, or let's say chronology wise, if we'll try to see chronology wise, okay? So if we'll see the history of India, history of ancient India, and one, like, should be very clear that majority of the sites are being asked from ancient India, and there is a reason behind it, because this particular question is falling in the ancient. And that's the reason because of what you can expect the site only till 10th century or max to max 12th century. After that, like for the next period, you won't find the sites from, like, from the next period. That you need to keep in mind. So when it comes to, right, when it comes to the first period, so of course it is the Paleolithic period. Right? Now the Paleolithic period can be also divided into how many parts? Let's say the lower Paleolithic, right? Then the middle Paleolithic, and then upper Paleolithic. Got it? Paleolithic, like, can be asked in this way. So this is the first chronology what we are going to cover. The second is Mesolithic. The third is Neolithic. The third is Neolithic, right? The fourth is Megalithic. Now these sites can be understood with respect to some other terms also. Whenever it comes to the whole period, Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic and Megalithic as well, like for them, like another term can be also used, black and red bear. That's also called as BRW sites. BRW sites. Apart from that, like, you have to remember some other specifications also this, and that will be definitely highlighting in here, such as, like, as per the, like, different kind of tools being used, or as per, like, certain specific features like burials and other things. So that will be done in the description, or that will be covered in the description. So that's how you have to remember ki, okay, the PRW sites, that incorporates all these areas. So this is how this part needed to be prepared. Okay, moving next is the Chalcolithic period, right? So the next is Chalcolithic. Now the Chalcolithic period can be understood only also with respect to Harappan Chalcolithic and then non-Harappan. Harappan and non-Harappan Chalcolithic. Now when it comes to Harappan, that's about, again, BRW. But this is not only BRW, it is not the same black and red ware, but it is black on red ware, right? That's the specification of this. And then when it comes to non-Harappan Chalcolithic, so this is known for OCP, Ostre colored pottery. That's the specification of this. So when it comes to Chalcolithic, you need to be very clear for Harappan Chalcolithic and non-Harappan Chalcolithic. And then, like here, we can also talk about the copper hoard cultures. These are certain terms. So I'm just trying to discuss the terms that you should be particular of. Copper hoard culture, right? Now, it's not the same Chalcolithic culture. It's a copper hoard culture that could be noticed in the Gangetic plains, that could be noticed even in the eastern part of India, Bengal and all. So this is another sort of site that we need to keep in mind. So Chalcolithic and the copper hoard culture, right? After that, what we are going to cover? Next, we are going to cover, let's say, IBC. Okay. In IBC, you have to keep in mind 3 different terms. That's the early IBC, mature IBC, and late IBC. Okay? So you can differentiate the sites on the basis of this. Right? Okay. What pottery was largely being used? Black on red pottery. Okay, there are certain other minor specifications that we need to keep in mind, but that will be doing later. Okay, fine. After IBC, it comes to after IBC. Okay, 5th is the Vedic period. Vedic period, right? Now, Vedic period can be understood with respect to many other terms, but for the time being, you need to remember the term is PGW, painted grey ware. Got it? It is going to follow the further Mauryan period. Mauryan period. And in Mauryan period, the most important thing for us, sorry, like I have skipped the Mahajanpada period. Okay. It's very important for your map section. Mahajanpada period. Here the cities are the most important, sites which are being asked. So Mahajanpada period is known for NBPW, Northern Black Polished Ware. These are the terms that you need to keep in mind. Followed by the Mauryan period. This period is not specifically for the Ashokan sites. The same, pottery continued over here. Then post-Mauryan. This is a very confusing period where several things can be asked here. The same sites, same sort of pottery continued here. Now, with respect to pottery, there is no specification that we need to keep in mind, right? Post-Mauryan period. And then finally, it comes to the Gupta period. And 10 is post-Gupta period. Post-Gupta. And then finally, we can also talk about that certain sites from early medieval. Early medieval period, right? So these are the various topics we are going to cover, but that is not the end. Rather, it is this is what we have done as per the chronology. But apart from chronology, we are going to follow some other techniques or the other things also, other method, other sites, same sites with some other specification. Apart from this, what are the other sites that we are going to pick up? So that includes, let's say, Buddhist sites. Now, when we have been covering we'll be covering Buddhist sites. So we'll be, of course, dividing it in multiple segments. We'll be covering the Buddhist architecture. We'll be covering the important places in Buddha's life, and then we'll be covering some other important things related to Buddhism. So all these sites which are related to Buddhism will be covered. The Buddhist educational centers also. Then we are going to cover what? The Jain centers. Then we are going to cover some important Brahmanical centers. Now the repetition will be definitely there, right? One site is being repeated multiple times. It's quite possible, but it is important for us to cover in this way, because I told you that if you're not covering in this way, in that case it's going to be little problematic for you. Okay. Then apart from this, we are going to cover the, various cities, right? Let's say capitals, or else cities capitals, or let's say the commercial centers. Then we'll be covering the port cities. Then we'll be covering the temples. Okay. Then we'll be covering, the educational centers. So these are the various important themes we are going to cover. As I told you, there will be definitely repetition, but repetition is very important, because as I told you that if you remember the sites in multiple ways, in that case it becomes easier for you, right? So that we are definitely going to incorporate even in our answers also, right? So this is how, these are the various themes, these are chronologically, these are feature wise also, what we are going to cover, that you can remember it in multiple ways. And as I told you that I'll provide you certain material, or sometimes we'll try to see the certain clusters also, the clusters which are creating very, so many confusion among you, right? And I'll tell you that what are the regions where the confusion comes in, right? Okay, now let's see the way we are going to cover it. Okay, so fine. So look, in order to ease your work, we have just done it in a very different way. Got the point? Now this is one sort of map which is being asked to you, right? And in every map, what we are going to do, we have just done only 6 sites. So this is the Paleolithic one, and here we are going to cover in one map. We are going to cover only 6 sites. Now, while covering these sites, there are a couple of things that I have done. So these are done desperately. Let's say when we have been covering the Paleolithic sites, so we're not picking up the sites randomly. एक site यहाँ पे ले लिया, एक यहाँ पे ले लिया, एक यहाँ ले लिया. No, we are not doing it this way. We're just trying to pick up the sites which are there in a cluster basically. Let's say this is a cluster. So since they are closely located, and that's how it is necessary for you that you can identify. So this is the reason, because of what I had been talking about covering the topic cluster wise. But this is not the only cluster wise coverage is there. Rather, this is for the Paleolithic sites also, but there are certain maps. Let's say this is one part where you can find that there are several sites are located. So here I'll be giving you certain maps where the small blockages will be picked up, and the several sites located in this particular region will be depicted. So whatsoever regions they are coming up, irrespective of that, they'll be given here, that he'll be able to differentiate easily कि अच्छा ये Paleolithic है या historical age sites है, वो सारी चीजें जो हम उस तरीके से cover करेंगे. Got the point? So that's how we can say कि this is what, this is how we have prepared it. So what I have done, that in every map we have just included 6 sites only. Why 6 sites? Sometimes what happens when you see the map, right, and the description is there on the other pages. And in fact, I have noticed that in most of the books, what is being used by you, which are available in the market, that's having one problem, that they have been giving either very longer description, which is having so many unnecessary information which are not very important. But since it is given, so you need to identify them, and that's why you need to read a lot, them. So that creates problem. So in order to resolve that particular problem, what we have done, let's say we have just covered 6 sites here, and the description of all these 6 sites are given here. And this description is the most scientific and the best information what you could available. Each and every site, the description of each and every site has been collected from various articles and all. So that's how I have just tried to collect information which are not generally available. Rather, after putting great effort, these these informations were collected, and in information, as you can see, that I'm just putting 6 or 7 points. As per me, if you have been giving 6 or 7 points, your 30 words should be completed. And what are the important things I have been including? Such as, let's say, Bhimbetka. Okay? So the first information, I'm slightly enlarging it. Okay, the first information, I've included the name of the archaeologist, the person who is primarily responsible for excavation of this particular site. Then the modern day location, where exactly it's located. So it's located in the Raisen district of MP. That's written here. Okay? Then the another thing which is very important, that whether this particular site has remained in a continuity or not. This is one information they had been desperately looking for. Like, sometimes you'll find that it was there important in the prehistoric times. Again, it is important in the historical age. So these kind of informations are very important. So what like they are doing, they are always looking forward to get such or see such descriptions. So I have like for most of the sites where it is relevant, I have included it. Such as for Bhimbetka, it's available in Paleolithic and Mesolithic. It's written here. Let's say for Adamgarh, it is it was active during the Paleolithic, then Mesolithic, then Neolithic and Chalcolithic. So everything is written here. And then after that, like the description, the important, let's say, important description of that site or feature of that site. How many caves are available, largest collection of rock painting, what kind of paintings are there, UNESCO World Heritage Site. So now you don't need to see anything else. I think just by seeing this map, these 6 sites are clear. So that actually, that actually resolve all these problems what you had been facing. So we'll be doing every site in this way, but it does not mean I'm not providing the description. I'll be providing the description, but if you are able to recall the sites from here only, it's perfectly fine. If you need to see some sort of description, more description, in that case you could go to the pages of the pages where the actual description is given, right? So, so this is one way of covering it, but this is not the only way of covering it. This is the one sort of map which is being asked by the UPSC. So we have done it in this way, right? Moving to the next. Then it comes to Paleolithic sites. It comes to the second way of preparing it. Now the second way of preparing it, in the blank map. Since UPSC is doing experiments, so that's the reason because of what we should be ready for this also. Now when it comes to blank map, let me tell you, I'm not putting so many lines. Rather, I'm just trying to keep it as simple as possible. And these lines are drawn in such a manner which can, not only is going to save your time, but also it is going to ease your work. Whenever it comes to the sites, I must tell you that there are only couple of places where you can find the clusters. Let's say, when you talk about this particular region, there are so many sites available. When you talk about this particular site, there are so many, this particular region, there are so many sites, and that's how you can find certain sites here also. So desperately we have drawn the line in this way, drawn the lines in this way that can really ease your work. But while pulling this line, or while getting this line on your map, we have also kept in mind that instead of connecting the latitudes or longitudes, because earlier I tried this, but then I have realized one thing. UPSC, as I told you, not following a very scientific map every time, and that's the reason it is creating confusion. So let's say if there are minor variation in the map, in that case it's creating problem for you. So what we have done, we have basically connected certain dots. But we have done it in such a way that the kind of map can be created, or the kind of graph can be created only on those areas, as I told you, that since there are more sites from here, there are more sites from here, there are some sites in this particular part. So जहां पे मुझे लगता है कि cluster of sites है, वहां पे ऐसे lines draw करने जरूरी है. हमने वहीं पे ज्यादा उसका वो रखा है, और हमने इस latitude longitude के बजाय there are certain points we have picked up that you need to remember, and we have connected with some other points, and that can only ease your work. So how many lines I have drawn? Just 1, 2 and 3 lines, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. Just 4 lines, 8 lines we have drawn, and that can really help you out. That's really going to help you out. So this is how we have prepared. And then again, if you are doing it in this, if you are doing it in this way, in that case again you can find the same description here. So what page you have been you have been consulting, you can find the description over there also. So if you have been doing it in this 2 way, in that case definitely you are able to recall the description of the site. And mind you, the description of the sites are very important, whether you are really putting it in a right way or not, because as I told you, that right description only can get 2 marks for you. So this is very important. So don't focus only on the identification of the sites. Descriptions are also very important. And then after that, what we are going to do, towards the end, we are just putting the description of these sites in this way. So now here elaborated description is there. So if you really wish to read more about it, or let's say the things you could not understand over there, so the description of this is written here. That is sufficient for you. So that's how we are just going to do, right? So these are certain things that you have to keep in mind. So from the next class, we'll be picking up the first topic, the Paleolithic, and then most probably in the next class, we'll be able to finish the Paleolithic and Mesolithic. Let's see. So we'll be trying for that. So that's all, like, for this class. So this is how I have prepared it, and I hope it is, like, it will be helpful for you. So we'll be like meeting for the next class. Thank you very much. Thank you.